standing up when I call your name. Tyrone Arce is our cafeteria cook. Beth Aubin has joined us as the administrative assistant to student support services. Dan Brew, our new electrical instructor. Kaylee Chinchak, who is here with us as our vocational specialist. She started with us last year and is retired. Taryn DeVito, who's our instructional coach and assessment coordinator. Josh Beekes, our engineer and technology instructor. Ethan Graham, one of our paraprofessionals. And Paul Harding, who you probably met him during the hors d'oeuvre time, but of course he's busy prepping our building for our evening custodian. Wayne Lehman, another evening custodian who's here, you met him, and Jason Lund, custodial maintenance for evening. Mary Roth, who is here for continuing education program assistant. Ryan Swift, who has also joined us this evening for advanced manufacturing. Andrew Theobald from auto technology. Lynn Tossi, one of our paraprofessionals, and then Jason Tremblay, who's also here for advanced manufacturing. So welcome. So those were the folks from last year who had joined us. We have a total of 15 staff that I just named, and this is for this starting year. We have a total of 16 new staff members joining us. Kendra Alex for health assisting. Welcome, Kendra. Dave Boyven, science. Joe Camacho is accounts receivable. Jenny Chuckleback, MVP bilingual assistant. She'll be working in our MVP program. Chris Dumas for house carpentry. Matt Giusetti, MVP carpentry instructor. Monique Guthrie, who's here with us this evening, graphics communications. Stephanie Kirsch, our CAD drafting instructor. Angela Leek, she is our new veterinary technician, who's here 2 days a week. Leah Matthews, child care center teacher. Frankie Matta, who's here as our cafeteria worker and driver. Jim Morris, MVP electrical. Jacob Olson, MVP carpentry. Matt Paul, who's our MVP paraprofessional. And Paul was with us last year too, subbing in our building, so it's nice to have familiar faces back and friendly faces back. Katia Tarios, cafeteria office manager. John White, who's here with us, MVP electrical instructor. And that's it. So welcome. We're thrilled to have you all here. This is our wonderful and supportive school committee members that are here this evening, and thank you for joining us this evening for the school year. Let's have a great school year. And at this time, you're more than welcome to stay, but all right. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, members of the public that wish to comment may do so. Each speaker may have up to 2 minutes to speak. Total time allotted for public comment will not exceed 20 minutes. Persons may not transfer their time to another speaker. Do we have any members of the public who wish to speak? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item E, approval of meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Eric motions. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mrs. Swenson seconds. Discussion? Julie, could you call that vote, please? And Joe, motion carries. Item 2A, Superintendent Director update. Superintendent Brown.
So quick. There we go. All right, sorry about that. Expected more stuff to be happening. All right. First, I guess I should quickly, before I even get onto the presentation, just to talk a little bit more So if you haven't kind of noticed in terms of the recording piece, the two cameras are obviously up there on the shelves. The one to my right and over here is the one that films this side of the room. The one to my left films the right side, to my right side of the room. And then we can kind of go bounce and forth as we edit everything. So you all are on camera, just so you know, at some point. In terms of the microphones, just to emphasize in terms of the sensitivity that we kind of learned this afternoon, when we turned it on, I took about, I don't know, I walked a good 8 to 10 feet away and spoke in a regular voice and the microphone picked it up. So you want to be very careful with the microphones and that kind of thing.
Quick question on that. Are these voice activated? And so why do we need to press the button?
They're not voice activated. Yeah, we didn't want voice activated because then if people start talking, it's going to go on and we didn't want that. So, yeah.
I was confused with the pressing the button.
Yep. Yeah. So as long as you've turned it on the right side, well, I guess it's the right side, yes. Switch it to on. When you push the button, you might have to hold it for a little bit. You'll see the lights, the green lights on the bottom come on. That lets you know that your microphone is on. When you're done talking, you push it again, hold it a little bit. Those lights on the bottom will just be one single red light. You know you're off. So that's the way it works for those. I don't know if there's anything else they need to talk about in terms of the microphones and everything else, but we'll kind of go from there and we'll get started. Yes, sir.
So are we turning them on and off for the meeting then?
Yes, I think that's what you should. I think if you're not speaking, I don't want to speak for Eric necessarily as the vice chair, but if you're not speaking, I would say that you should probably just have it off. I mean, I don't think you have to turn it all the way off in terms of on the side. If the side is on, and as long as you've turned it off at the bottom, it's still not going to record anything. So.
I'm not sure if it affects anybody else, but the cooling fans or whatever's going on in there, there's a frequency that's really sensitive in my head.
So that's one thing I was going to talk to Don about after the meeting. I agree. We hadn't noticed that because when we've been in here talking and everything else, and now when you're kind of quiet and everything else, it's a little bit. So we'll definitely take a look at that. Yep. All right. So let's see. Going to the presentation here. So yes, another year begins. Very exciting. We started off last Monday. Faculty came back for their opening day where they just kind of get everything set up. On Tuesday of last week, we had a full professional development day. We had an opportunity, the picture on the bottom left, Erin Gruwell, who is a teacher that's well known from California. They made a movie about her experience teaching called The Freedom Writers. She was coming to Massachusetts to speak at Old Colony. She had spoke to our group 7 or 8 years ago, but she actually called up to Katie and said, "Hey, I'm going to be in the area. I'd love to come up and talk to Monty Tech again." So she came up, did a fantastic presentation, really talking about where teachers can meet their students. She had a very tough group of students that ended up doing above and beyond what they normally would do in an urban school in California. She talked about the issues of tolerance within her classroom, some of the themes that we've been talking about recently, so I think that was really important. That made for a really good day. Finished off the day with full professional development opportunities for the individuals, for the teachers. And then last Wednesday, students came back. Ms. Carlson and her friend there were greeting everybody underneath the portico. Worked out very nicely. One of the other things I wanted to make sure that everybody knew about was that each year on the first day we celebrate the work anniversaries, for lack of a better phrase, in terms of different folks who have been here for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, so forth. We technically cheated on Mr. Bean because he's in his 29th year and he'll get to his 30th during the spring, but we said close enough, we'll give you credit for 30 years. So he got his 30-year pin. He's worked very hard, he deserves it. And as you can see, he is formally retiring in a couple weeks on the 24th. So obviously wish him the best and everything else. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, Don. You got me? There we go. All right. So quickly to talk about some of the work that's happened around the building. We, as hopefully you're aware, We were talking about it for a while. We finally did get our outdoor pavilion built in behind, in what kind of the students referred to as the senior courtyard. It's just outside the back of the cafeteria. The other nice thing about it is it's right next to the carpentry shop, and as I think we had shared at the last meeting, our plan was to kind of develop an outdoor classroom using the pavilion, using another 20 by 40 tent we have with sides and everything else that we're going to use temporarily for the MVP carpentry program while we finish up down the street. But the pavilion looks great. We're really thrilled. If you look really closely, under the pavilion was Tammy Crockett celebrating when it was finally up and going there. So she's the one who's jumping up and down underneath the pavilion. Main conference room, ton of work went into all this. Katie Whitaker, Mike Gormley and his custodians, our IT crew doing an amazing job getting all this set up. We found out that we had wires that we thought were connected to what needed to be connected, and we realized they weren't any longer. So long hours for those folks. Just so everybody knows, the logo behind me technically is temporary. This is just a sticky label. We're going to have a raised, that's why the colors are kind of off a little bit. Don't worry, they'll have the real colors when we get the real one up there. But we thought it'd be better to have a nice background. We were really thrilled. If you don't know, Julie has skills in framing. So Julie reframed all the pictures that from the towns and everything else. So if you have any framing needs, feel free to reach out to her. So we're really pleased with all that. So we really, this is great new environment here, so we're thrilled with that. We have officially moved the continuing ed office. The bank, as you know, workers pulled out many years ago, going back to COVID, I think. But we configured that space, did some work on it, and it's now become the continuing ed office, which is perfect as the students come in for nighttime programming and everything else. So we have that space. As a coming soon, we had spoken to you, one of the things that came out of the safety audit that we had was the obvious concern of folks who come in. Once they get through that first vestibule, which there is no necessary lock between those two doors, they technically, we kind of hope that they're going to come over to the main office and check in, but they can take off running. We're going to be dividing the lobby and kind of setting up, for lack of a better phrase, a fishbowl that will only allow those people to go directly to the window of the main office. They will not have access to the whole building. It'll be much more secure. We have the permit for that now, so we'll be doing that work on the weekends coming up in September. Child Care Center, I think I might have already gave you those. New floor in the Child Care Center, and we're still working on the playground that's going to go up, the brand new playground. You might have to move me again, Donnie. We will work out kinks like this. I don't know if I'm supposed to point it at you or... Am I canceling out by pushing at the same time? Yep, there we go. If you don't know, kind of a combination of the middle picture and the picture to the left. So the TV studio, the space that we had down there, we have converted that to the new technology office, providing us with a lot more storage. We're still going to be able to do morning announcements and everything else. Bill Gonzalez is part of the tech office now, as opposed to being just by himself. So Donnie and his crew are down there, really pleased to have a nice new space, lots more storage, everything else. What that then allowed us to do, the only thing that we need more of when it comes to, one thing is storage everywhere, we need more of. But we didn't have office space. And we had some teachers who didn't have classrooms, who didn't have any space to just put their stuff down and have some place. So we were able to convert that into an auxiliary office for some of those teachers. It also allows us a space temporarily for the next month or 2 months probably at least, for the MVP folks to kind of have a home too, the office manager and everything else. So very happy to have that. Top right picture is a very boring picture. It's a picture of a window, but it's a very important window. Mike and Tammy worked out nice work with using the ESSER money. And all the original windows for the bottom floor for building 2, the first floor for building 1 out front, the office glass windows all here, were all replaced using that. Again, just the glass, not necessarily the frames. but if you had any opportunity to go to any of the offices or any of those classrooms, Health Hawk, Maeve can speak to it probably, there was a film, a permanent film on the windows that wasn't going to go anywhere because water had seeped in between. When they took the windows down, when they installed some of the original windows, the windows were too small, so they were about 2 or 3 inches left. They just filled it in with putty to hold in the window there instead of getting an actual new window. So getting those windows changed, it really just brings a nice, brighter environment in all those classroom spaces and the office spaces. So really pleased to get that work done again. That was all used, ESSER money was for all that. Another thing that we checked off from our security audit, that back security gate used to just be a single arm going up and down. It provided us absolutely zero security in any way, shape, or form. So just like the gate we have on the side of the building, we installed this rear security gate. It fully closes. It gives us much better security. We added a speed bump because let's just say the students, when they want to get dismissed, they go pretty fast. Not Maeve at all, nothing. Yes, so happy to have that. We also put in, I didn't get a picture of it, but on the gate on the other side, I really appreciate that Mike responded to a student from Vet Tech, pointed out that when they were coming over here for lunch, that they had to cross that section of the parking lot, the road, to get in here. One of them had sent me an email saying, Mr. Brown, there's not really even a crosswalk designated. Could you do something? I forwarded it to Mike, and he made sure to install a crosswalk and do a speed bump there. And she wrote the sweetest email. It was today or yesterday afternoon, just saying, it was really nice that I kind of pointed it out, and you guys did something about it. And it's really nice to know she's going to be a senior, but that the underclassmen will have a safe passageway and everything else. So great work by Mike and the crew there. And then last but not least, coming, I think we told you about, we're adding additional parking to the student lot. It is incredible how many kids are getting their own cars these days. So we already kind of went through a lot of spots. We had this planned anyhow. We are working our way through. We're pretty much done with. We have one more meeting, I think, with Westminster Planning Board, or was it Conscom? I'm not sure. Oh, Planning Board, right, Mike? Yeah, so once we take care of that, we'll start that work. We'll do it on weekends, so we're not disrupting things and everything else. That will add 86 parking spots to the senior parking lot.
In this space, we were using it for classroom space before we renovated it. Is it used for anything during the day now?
Not right now. The last time we had to use it for classroom space was when we were renovating a science lab that's now done. So that teacher had moved into that space about halfway through the year last year. But we still use this and will occasionally. Friday's really the day we use it because with testing for special education students, the paraprofessionals will bring a kid in here and help them take a test in a better learning environment. That's all. So, yes.
Right. Not doing anything.
Yeah.
Did you say 86 spots?
86 parking spots,
Wow,
correct.
that's incredible. And new photographer?
New photographer. Me?
Is that you?
That's me.
You're a pretty good photographer. I know there's a difference.
Thank you. I like to be referred to as Ansel Adams, please. That's if we could take care of that. I do family portraits and weddings, so just let me know and I'll be there. No, thank you very much. No senior pictures. I don't want to do any of that. All right, let me see if we can keep going. Hey, we're going. All right, so now we got going. Quickly on MVP. So I mentioned, as we've been saying all along, unfortunately last year, that November, December, that we lost a lot of time waiting for the permits and everything else from Fitchburg. We're still behind. The crew who worked during the summer did a real nice job. We're done with all the steel framing. That's all ready to go. When we feel like it's a good time to start doing putting a board, we can do that. But what we have to do now is electrical. They've only been back for a couple days, but electrical is already getting in now to start doing some of the wiring. Obviously, we're not going to be putting up the board until we get all the new wiring put in place. So they are working along, and we're hoping to only be out of the space for hopefully November. But so everybody just knows what we're doing and how we're doing this is the MVP program, because all the electrical students, the upperclassmen, are going to be down at 270 doing the work, that leaves their space open. So the MVP electrical students will operate out of the electrical shop. MVP Carpentry, as you can see in the bottom right, that's the tent and the pavilion. They're working in literally, if you don't know from where that space is, literally 15 feet to the right is the house carpentry shop. So they're right outside the shop, they can connect with those instructors, work with those instructors. So the carpentry program will work out of the outdoor classroom. We have some fallback ideas in terms of spaces that if there's gonna be a stretch of bad weather, or if we go longer than we expect to go. But we think we're ready and good to go on that. So next Monday, the MVP students will arrive. We had a great orientation session with all the parents in August. That went very well. When those students arrive, they'll be met at the front door by our MVP staff, and we'll kind of walk them through the day. We've described it to them, but they'll come in the morning. They're all going to have student IDs. Theirs will be in yellow, so it will stand out. It will have the MVP logo on it. We made sure that those students know that there is no reason for any of those students to be going into the academic areas. So they really, and the restroom they're going to use is just down the hallway as it is. So that really shouldn't be walking around or anything like that. Just trying to make sure I hit all the things. Again, they're going to be coming by our buses. We do have in the bottom, as that picture on the bottom left, we have reserved some parking spots to the front of the building that typically were kind of left open. I think technically we saved it for substitutes, but I think it saved it for like 25 substitutes, which obviously we're never going to have that many substitutes in a given day. Hopefully not. So that parking will happen down there. MVP students will work in their shops during the morning and everything else. They will go to the culinary lunch. Right now, the culinary lunch is just the culinary students. They go to lunch at 10:09 because they need to be back in the restaurant to serve in the restaurant. So that's got to be when they have lunch. So they'll kind of be separated from pretty much most of the other students. They'll get dismissed with all the other students, get on our buses, get into their cars, whatever it is, and head back to whether they're doing sports or whatever. So we reviewed this with the staff, our staff, on the opening day, so they kind of had a sense of what's going to be happening and everything else. But again, we're just very excited. I think I had told you, trying to think what day it was that I saw you. I think it was right. It was the same day that again, the folks at the state level are really watching this program and really excited to see if it's going to get off the ground. So.
What, can you give us a breakdown again from how many from Fitchburg, Gardner, and Narragansett?
All right, so make sure I get this right. So total for Narragansett is 12, 24 for Gardner. No, what am I short, Katie? 20, and then is it 54 for Fitchburg? 52 for Fitchburg.
But we've moved, just so you know, like, there was some openings for seniors.
Yep.
So I think we allocated one additional spot here at Narragansett this year. So we were able to accommodate any waitlist requests that they had, because we didn't have the maximum number of seniors sign up. We're still accepting that, but I think we gave one extra student.
Yeah, the three sending districts have been very nice, and they've worked out very well with, can we swap? We have a kid who this spot, but they want this spot, can we swap? Because we want to try to, especially first year, when again, those seniors are only getting 1 year of training. We did our best to make sure we could adjust with all them. And again, some of the seniors, even though we did a real nice job explaining to pathways postgraduate, the sending district was saying they were struggling to get some seniors because some of the seniors were thinking, hey, I'm only getting 1 year of training, what's it really going to get me, that kind of thing.
Mr. Campbell? So just to clarify here, so you got 84 students
Yep.
and 42 each week, bi-weekly, right?
Approximately, because some spots are open still.
So, what about like, do they know exactly, I want to go into carpentry? Is there a form of exploratory for them, or
No,
they don't?
they
pick,
chose their shop in
and that's
advance.
it?
Correct.
What if they hate it? What happens?
I suppose if it's early enough and there's space in the other shop, we could have that conversation. Right, but they're pretty tight, especially the juniors. The juniors are exceptionally tight. I don't think there's much movement
Right.
for the juniors. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Okay.
Don't try it.
All right.
Do these students come every other week, Tom?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Juniors one week, seniors the other.
And they come for the whole day?
Correct.
Okay. And so they take academics at their regular school?
Correct?
All right. These are rhetorical questions. And the programs are electrical and carpentry right now?
Yes, and
With
plumbing
the-
would be added the following year,
Okay.
in 2025.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Thanks, that's great.
No problem. All right, move on to a couple MVP. In the August meeting, we let you know that, and I'll review that grant too, that we had received the first of the grants, the big grants that we had applied for, that we were looking for to pay for most of the program. We, at the time, told you that we had a second one that we felt very confident that we were going to be receiving. And over the last couple of weeks, we did officially, we were made officially aware that we did receive the CT Partnership Implementation Grant for $839,000. This will cover primarily all the costs for year one. So it pays for the 4 instructors, pays for our paraprofessional and our bilingual assistant. You can see, I mean, I don't go down the list, but it pays everything in terms of real estate taxes as well, the office manager. You can, I don't have to necessarily read through it all, but obviously it takes it. And then the last piece was the big piece that's really going to support the sending districts, is we did include $70,000 for each of the sending districts to help pay for the academic instructor that they were probably going to have to add on, because a lot of them are using cohort models, and then rather than having, you know, a teacher that they had to hire brand new or anything, we're able to build it into the grant, so they'll get that coverage for this year, the program. So that will help out those 3 districts. For those who weren't here last month, or if you weren't aware of it, the other grant that we did receive was the Clean Energy Center grant. This pays for the salaries and the rent and everything else for 3 years. So that will take care of 3 years of the grant, so that's really going to help us out. So we're feeling really good about the fact that we have this financial support in place. We know it's in place. One of the things we do have to do, if you look at, I think it's about the 3rd or 4th bullet, is we are going to try to build into the curriculum instruction about how to install the EV charging stations and everything, and that's part of the Clean Energy Center commitment for the grant. As always, Katie Whitaker doing a fantastic job on both these grants, making sure that we get these funds. So big thumbs up and big thank you as always. And then that's it for MVP. I'm taking way too long, so go ahead.
Sorry. This might be a stupid question, so forgive me if it is, but when they're at their sending district school for their academic week, are they in traditional academic classes with everybody else, and then they're like absent for a week?
No. Well, no. So what they do, most of them are doing a cohort model where the kids are going, and they don't necessarily, they might have 1 or 2 teachers who are doing all their content instruction.
So they're like in their own class?
Correct. Their own space.
Okay.
So they don't necessarily go to 5 different teachers or anything like that. Like, they don't walk the traditional schedule.
Okay,
So-
I was just imagining them
Yeah.
absent for a week. And I was like,
Yeah,
okay.
no, all good. All right, quickly, just to wrap up some quick other things. Big congratulations to our PN program. If you recall, back in June, they had their reaffirmation visit. Great work writing the reports. Andrea Corrado, again, just doing, Terry Duchamp doing a fantastic job. They did receive their reaccreditation, reaffirmation, so we are all set with the Council of Occupational Education. But if you recall, when I first mentioned this, Massachusetts, on its own, decided that they only wanted specifically nursing accreditation groups accrediting programs like this. They didn't want, COE is kind of a generic technical vocational accreditation. So we have to switch over. So as silly as it is, after doing all the work to get COE in the spring, now they have to go back and do all the work again for this group called ASIN, the Accreditation Commission for Education and Nursing. So they've switched on to that, but we are accredited as it is, and again, fantastic work by the PN program. Wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of something that we just think is really neat, because Vicky's done some really good work in the background, and it's been something that ends up supporting all our other vocational schools. But for a long time, Monty Tech has had a relationship with the Worcester Railers. They've been reaching out to us, reaching out to Vicky, and I think Kim Denopoulos is part of the process sometimes, and saying, hey, listen, we'd love to have you guys come. We'll give you a discounted rate. We'll recognize the school while you're there. Teachers were able to get on it. Families were able to get on it. And next thing we knew, they were kind of saying, well, who else could we talk to? And Vicky suggested, well, why don't you talk to MAVA, which is the overarching group for vocational programs. And the folks from Worcester Railers reached out and said, hey, we want to do a full-on trades and tech night where all vocational programs are invited to attend, and they will all be recognized. Students will get complimentary tickets. Family can get tickets at a discount. So in January, there's going to be this trades and tech night where they're going to celebrate MAVA and vocational education. It's a really cool little program that we're kind of proud of, and Vicki did great work on the background to get that done. So nice to have it. If you're not doing anything on January 17th, let us know. We'll see what we can do.
Before we move on to item B or C, just want to recognize Katie for all her hard work. We appreciate it, and also to the administration for getting the MVP program spun up. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Question?
Yep.
On the PN program,
Yes.
when did we drop the L?
So it's, sometimes they call it LPN, sometimes it's just PN. It kind of varies. It depends.
Okay.
And if you check even like all the programs across the state, some people call it an LPN program, some people call it a PN program. It's, I like brevity, clearly because my presentation is so short. But anyhow, all right, so because I'm holding everybody up. So very quickly, I'm going to go through my goals. I had shared them with Eric, in terms of the workforce share, and he said just kind of present them as is. I'll come back to the district improvement plan, don't worry. So very quickly, there's 3 usual goals, professional practice being the first one. Again, I have not finished this goal because if you don't know, the NISIP program, the new superintendent's program, is a 3-year program, so I'm into year 3 now. This year, it's a little bit different. It's more about consultancies. It's not about learning different practices. It's about having groups of superintendents get together, talk about specific problems in your district or concerns, how do you address those and everything else. So we're going to be in smaller groups, so I kind of appreciate that. That's going to be nice. I did have a good connection with my coach, Mary Ellen Brunell, who's fantastic. She's done work with the team, just chatting with them, and I'm still with Mary Ellen, so I'm excited about that. So I'll finish up that program this year. I'm not going to necessarily read through everything, so I'm going to kind of keep it going. The second goal is a little bit different. So those of you who have been here for a while, finally we're coming around full circle and we're looking towards our next NEASC accreditation. That will happen in 2026. However, prior to that, you have to do some work in a self-study and everything else. And then part of that self-study, we were one of the last districts that went through the old model of the NEASC accreditation, where they looked for mission statements and how you support that mission statement. Well, mission statements have been thrown out, and what they now want you to do is have core values. What defines what the district wants to succeed or achieve and succeed at, what the school does. They've also have this thing called a portrait of a graduate. The portrait of a graduate is what you decide, the kid who's crossing this stage, receiving their diploma, what characteristics, what traits do we feel that person should embody, and how are we going to assess those traits and everything else? There's quite a lot of work that goes into that. We'll start forming teams. Diana's going to be, essential on this as building principal, because again, technically it's a building, it's a school level project. But I'm going to obviously be part of that process because I want to make sure that the core values, because let's face it, in our situation, it represents the district as well. So the second goal for district improvement is us putting together all the work for those things for the portrait of the graduate and for the core values. There's a specific tool that we're supposed to develop for those core values, committees that we're supposed to set up and everything else. It's a long-term thing. It's not something that we have to have done immediately, but I definitely want to be focusing on that and working on that throughout this year. And then last but not least, the one last thing that was still left as in terms of our community goal was the actual launching of MVP Academy, getting everybody into the building, and then getting people to come visit us at the building, see what we've done, try to get more sponsorships, get sponsorships in general, and everything else. That's really what I'm going to be focusing on for this year for my community goal as well. So hopefully I'll achieve all those and I'll try to be careful when I give you all the evidence in the spring, but I said the same thing last year, and I still was bad, so anyhow. But that's all the goals. I don't know if there's any questions there. And then if not, the one thing I'll just quickly go to, district improvement plan, we had given you this last year. This year, since it was going into year 2, all we did as an admin team was to decide where are we. You can look through the district improvement plan. You were given a copy in front of you. You'll see where I scored us in conversation with the admin team during our admin retreat of whether we felt it was completed or in progress. A couple things that were added. Ms. Favreau wanted me to specifically make sure that everyone understands that the goal for the common assessments was that each course would develop one common assessment for each course per quarter. So we want to make sure that we have common assessments every quarter in our primary core classes. Just that's some language that we did change. Under the District Objective 2, in terms of the grants, as you know, as part of the admissions process, we are required to take a look at adding the Equitable Access and CTE grant, which Katie actually was just working on today. So we have to submit that grant. So we just wanted to add that to the list of the grants that we're really going to make sure we focus on. And then one of the last things, when we presented to you the Student Opportunity Act last year, we talked about working with our EL students. So we did add that last step under District Objective 2, SMART Goal 2, that speaks to supporting the instructional needs of our EL and former ELL students. We're going to launch an EL instructional coaching program, which will be done by Taryn DeVito, who we spoke about a little bit earlier, and looking to get feedback to teachers of what we can do to support these ELs and everything else. The rest of the plan, again, that's mostly just indicators of where we are in implementation, and those were the only edits. So, if there's any questions or comments?
Mr. Olson?
So, Tom, I guess thinking about the NEASC updates and the new sort of recast of the criteria, how does that align to the district and school improvement vision theory of action? I mean, is that sort of going to take into a new recast of both of these together, starting for, well, kind of a new 26 or part of 27? Will we stub year this or something? Is that how do you think that's going to?
I think as we build that core values in the Portrait of the Graduate this year, we're going to have to look at embedding things within the district improvement plan to make sure they align it. Because even when we create those, if we don't take actions or take steps that show that we are using those, that they have an impact, then NEASC is going to come in and say, oh, great, you wrote something on a piece of paper, but you're not doing anything with it. So yeah, we'll have to embed them next year.
If I recall from the last NEASC one, that was, there were several surveys and comment periods and school committee was kind of a very depthful kind of process for the first one, and then the criteria and evaluation was sort of a two-step. So is that this year, that sort of surveying
that will
process
probably
for you,
start.
or the year
So
after?
The first thing we learned, Diane and I started looking at it. Much to our surprise, now they do 2 visits. So it's a decennial. Anyone doesn't know, it's a decennial accreditation every 10 years. The cycle that we're on was 2016 was the last time we had our visit. They came during COVID, did the 5-year visit, and then you have 5 years essentially off. And now the next visit is in 2026. What we learned now is NEASC will come and do its visit on 2026, and then 2 years after, on 2028, they come back and do another visit. That's brand new to us. We've never experienced that, so that's going to be a new opportunity, I'll say, being positive, to be getting feedback from NEASC and everything else. But yes, those types of surveys, a lot of these stuff they still want to learn is still embedded into their self-study and everything else. So.
And is that same process, that was a pretty big, I'm not sure if it was in the 10-year or the 20-year ago one I'm thinking of too. I mean, it was quite an elaborate.
It is a very busy, unfortunately, when we get to 2025, like the fall of 2025, a lot of our professional development days is really going to be NEASC accreditation days where people are putting together their reports, getting all that stuff. That's what we did last time. So we have to find a faculty, because it's required that faculty members lead the standards committees. Administrators aren't supposed to be, because the whole idea is that the teachers know what's happening on these levels and everything else. So yeah, there's a lot to be done.
And maybe a last one on this point is just for our committee to be aware of work that we may need to do or support of that as well in the end of this year or next year. looking at Diane because it probably means policy more than anything else, but I think I recall us doing a refresh or an update of the vision at that point from the school committee through as part of that process and making sure that that was all aligned. And-
Oh, yeah,
So-
we would
so there was
definitely
sort
want
of-
you to
was
be
a-
part,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Anything else for Superintendent Brown?
Moving on to item 3A, Student Representative Monthly Report. The floor is yours.
So, well, I'm going to introduce Maeve, and then she will introduce her colleague, because I don't want to step on Maeve's report. If you remember last year, unfortunately, Jada was great. We love Jada, but Jada did a lot of sports, so she missed a lot. So Kathleen Salila, who is our student advisory advisor, kind of had a neat idea that, hey, what's wrong with having two people so they can make sure that they kind of cover each other? And we thought, that's a great idea. So today is Maeve's day, I guess, to do the presentation, so I'll let Maeve get going, and then I'll be quiet. Man.
So for athletics, we have our fall sports team that we're very excited about for matches and games. For co-op, currently we have 66 seniors participating in the program within their respective trades. And our student council will be playing homecoming and our senior student week that will be held on the 25th. Our annual
Welcome to both of you.
So what they'll do is they'll alternate. So they won't necessarily both show up for every meeting. They'll take turns when they can both, when one of them can be there. But it'll be nice to know that it's very likely that we're going to have a student rep throughout the year. So guys, we're thrilled to have you both.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Nice job. Thank you, Matt. Thank you.
Item
Have a great
3B,
night.
Principal's Monthly Report. Principal Carlson.
Okay. So have a great night, ladies. Thank you. New teacher and staff orientation, again, it's always such a treat welcoming our new staff members in order for them to sort of, put names to faces and get to greet everyone that is here. Our orientation, as you know, it's typically a new teacher orientation induction is a 2-day process that we do, and really part of that is for new staff members, not only teaching staff to come in and become acclimated with Monty Tech, and really just learn about our policies and procedures. We talk about the evaluation process, they look at the student handbook, and we have different presenters that will come. Vicki does an excellent presentation talking about IEPs. Katie will talk about the 504s, and so forth. We do also bring technology in. As you know, obviously with Power School and Schoology, we want to make sure, as we have some veteran teachers and certainly some new teachers, so they know and understand what we do use and resources they have available to them in order for them to be successful as they join Monty Tech. So that was on the 21st and the 22nd. On those two same days, we welcome our freshmen. For the past, I want to say since COVID, we started really breaking down the session, and we figured out that having those smaller groups of freshmen just really made sense in order for that to happen. I was up top, Julie, okay. So we break the groups up, and the kids actually come in by their homeroom. So it's really nice as they're walking in that they now have a familiar face of, oh, I'm going to see so-and-so in my first period class. So they come in. Chrissy Lamy, again, I cannot give this woman enough kudos. She does an outstanding job, really welcoming the students. The parents come in, they drop them off. Everyone's excited. They have their pictures taken. They get their Chromebooks. They meet with the counselors. We also have juniors that are paired with the freshmen. So as you recall, when students come in here, we have the freshmen and juniors and shop together, and then the sophomores and seniors. So truly, the upperclassmen that our freshmen see most are really those upperclassmen, the juniors are the ones they see. So Chrissy Lamy always seeks out juniors to come in and sort of be those orientation leaders. And those are the kids that they're going to see throughout the shops and in the hallways as they travel Monty Tech and, again, transition into our high school. And they do an outstanding outstanding job doing that as well. We also have a new upperclassmen orientation that typically happens the second day of school when we have staff members here. And part of that is for the upperclassmen. We don't typically have them come with a freshman, and also for those freshmen that were unable to attend the 2 days for whatever reason. If they were unable to come, they're able to come during the day while the staff are here, and really to show them around, and often just really to introduce them to the teachers as they are walking in here as sophomores and are new to Monty Tech as well. On August 22nd, we held our freshman parent orientation. We always tell the students, come back in the evening, and we basically tell the parents what we tell the students. I think not only are students nervous when they're walking into our building, but I think many of the parents also want to know the expectations and really be able to put faces to the names here in this building. And they get a chance to walk around the building and follow the student schedule with the student, speak with coaches. Some of our coaches are here, clubs and activities, so they get to really learn about bus routes and our schedule and the expectations of shop and whatnot. So I think it alleviates a little bit of that stress. Our students are prepping to start their first year of high school. You'll see there, I won't go through, but these are all the people, the different presenters that we have, again, welcoming the students and giving some of that information. And one of the last things that I wanted to share with you, and it's something we started doing last year, our teacher evaluation process that we have been doing. We typically, and those of you who are in education, evaluation binder as our evidence for the system that we are using. And what we found is that teachers would submit their binder of evidence, and we, the administrators, would review it along with the observations that we do while we're in our classroom, and we would give feedback. And there's just a lot of missed opportunity in doing that. There's just not enough collaboration in doing that. So we really wanted to open up the lines of communication and really just have that piece. There are times that we would sit, at night, I'm going through a binder and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I need to talk to so-and-so about this. Or I wonder if they did a little bit more of this. And what we find is then we come back, we're done with the binders, we submit the reports, and then the school year's coming to an end and everyone's going home for the summer. So having these meetings, so we're calling them a collaborative meeting. Part of doing that is really just to have that ongoing communication where a shop teacher may say, rather than trying to submit something in a binder, we go down to the shop and say, this is what I've done, and we can talk and go through the evidence based on the standard and different elements that they want to make sure that they are submitting evidence for. So this year, what we did is, last year, we had half of staff were able to opt in or opt out of that. That was for people that were in year 2 of their evaluation cycle. Typically teachers, once they become professional status, if they're on 2-year cycles, there's a year 1 and a year 2. People in their year 2 typically submit the binder, so those folks were the ones that were able to say, I want to just go old school and just give you a binder and walk away, or I'd like to sit with you and have that collaborative meeting. And most did go with a collaborative meeting. We've met as administrators and want to continue to do that, to say, how do we make sure that we continue with this process to make sure it's better and more efficient and more collaborative, more meaningful, really. What we missed last year is we only got to tackle year 2 people. This year, we want to give that same opportunity for the folks that were year 1 last year, that are year 2 this year, in order to also get feedback from additional staff members. And this is something we've been working with our union on. We have a joint labor management team too, so it's made up of staff, union members, administrators as well, really to talk about that collaboration and see what works best and what makes the experience more meaningful. So just to give you a quick little update, the goal is to do it again this year, give folks an opportunity to participate, and then meet collectively as a group to say what's working, what's not working, what do we like, what do we not like. So just a quick little update. And on the next page, you will see our upcoming dates and activities. I think Maeve mentioned some of the highlights there, but again, you have all of our events that are coming up. We have our back to school night September 12th, and then as you know, we'll have our open house homecoming. If anyone wants to come and dress up on any of these days, Melanie, I know you wanted to join us last year, so come on in. So, and that's it. And then the next piece in the report are the enrollment reports, if anybody has any questions. Yes.
On the enrollment report, what was the population that we voted on to accept this year?
For freshmen, 355.
That's what we voted on, 355? Okay, is that, what we voted on?
we had a couple big years because COVID overall, we
We
were
had a
down,
low.
so we were able to have some larger freshman year. So for recently, yeah, it's a bit smaller. We did 1 year in about 2 or 3 years that was like 370. So.
Excellent.
Are the town quotas, are they based off of student population or town population?
It's off the town, it's based on the school-age children. The
Okay.
quota based on school-age children for each town.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Moving on to personnel. 4A, retirements. We have none. Great news. 4B, there are 2 resignations. They're in the packet. If anyone has questions on those, give you the opportunity. No? Item 4C, appointments. We have a number of them. Also, I'll document it in the packet. If there's any questions on those, you can take those questions. I'm seeing none. So we're going to call 4A, B, and C completed. Subcommittee reports. 5A, policy. Mrs. Swenson.
Yes, the first item on the policy is school committee meetings.
Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Mr. Olson seconds. Discussion? Seeing none. Julie, could you please call that? Motion carries. Item 5C, capital improvements. Mrs. Swenson.
There has not been a scheduled meeting as yet, but I'm sure that there will be at some point once the program gets started further on.
All righty. Item 5D, workforce. Mr. Olson.
Yes, so as Mr. Brown had presented this evening, we do have the goals that you shared with us. The subcommittee didn't review those, so we're hearing them here. I think I would open it to this committee and or the subcommittee if there are additional goals, haven't heard any over the summer for requests, or if there were particular other updates to those. We're already in the year a little bit, so it's a little bit in arrears for changes to that. But we will put that on for a formalized vote at the next meeting. So if there is some issue, concern, please reach out to Mr. Brown, myself, if there's anything you want to add, amend, or adjust to those goals. Workforce committee will be meeting here shortly. We have some other work we have to work on likely. So we'll be meeting and presenting those goals as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Olson? No? Student advisory, Mrs. Weeks.
There's been no meeting. We will not be meeting until the end of this year.
All right. 5F, school committee graduation gift. Dr. Terigny.
Yes, I have two things to present. There's been a slight change in the guidelines that we developed last year, and it's very simple. It's basically concerning the presenter. It states originally the school committee chairman or designee will be the presenter. We've changed the wording a little. It will be the school committee chairman or designee from the school committee
Makes
to
sense.
present. so it remains a school committee project gift. And the second one, it was brought up, if you looked at the last school committee gift, there was a request that had been made to host a committee meeting, dyslexia is terrible, at the last committee meeting for an ad hoc committee to think about the possibility of a dance in which the proceeds would benefit the Student Assistance Fund and the Nook. The event would be approved, would have to be approved by the school committee. The cost would be taken from the proceeds and the remainder would be given to the Nook and Student Assistance Fund. The name of the dance would be the Scratchy Vinyls, sponsored by this committee. The theme would be the first 10-year history of rock and roll, from roughly 1955 to 1965. It'd be a selection of the top 10 tunes of each year. And unlike the DJs of today, it would be done, the audio would be done by original phonographs instead of 45s and phonographs. And to proceed, we would have to have the agreement of the school committee, if they wish this to proceed, to further delve into whether this is possible. And that's it.
And I'm assuming you need buy-in from the administration for that too, right?
We would support it.
So are you making a motion then, Dr.
Yes, I
Trigg?
am.
All right. Could you try to, actually, why don't I try? So the motion is to have the school committee sponsor a dance, which will benefit the Nook and what
The
was it?
Nook and the Student Assistance.
And the Student Assistant Fund.
Yes.
All right. Is there a second for Dr. Turigny's motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Hurley seconds. Discussion? Mr. Barber?
Would that be to form an ad hoc committee, or
Is to form the committee.
is that,
But this
Oh,
would
form the
be,
committee.
right now, this is just thoughts on paper.
I think we want to modify the motion
Yeah.
to form an ad hoc to research further. Does that make sense?
It does. So, Mr. Hurley, are you okay with modifying the thing to form an ad hoc? Dr. Turigny, are you okay with modifying it to form an ad hoc?
Yes, I am.
All right.
I'll withdraw my second and add that to Mr. Turley's motion that it be an ad hoc committee. And the purpose of the ad hoc committee is to investigate the feasibility of having a fundraiser dance to benefit the Nook and the school committee scholarship fund.
All right. Julie, did you get that?
I think it's Student Assistance Fund.
All right. All right, so discussion on that item. Mr. Prasad?
Got it.
I think I'd be the only one. This is the school committee graduation gift subcommittee that we're talking about right now, right?
Oh, he'd like to create an ad hoc specifically for this fundraising dance.
Has nothing to do with the school committee gift thing. Okay.
This is just something else that we can do for.
Any other discussion? Okay. So Julie, I'm assuming I'm going to have to do a voice vote on this one, right? We'll start with Mrs. Estes. Mr. Olson. Mr. Campbell. Mr. Prasad. Mrs.
Aye.
Weeks. Aye. We're all the way down to the end there? All right, so it's unanimous, Julie.
Because Donnie gave me the hand waves, to remind everybody, don't forget when you're talking to push your button.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Anything else, Dr. Torigny?
Yes,
Okay.
I would need some volunteers,
Okay.
and it would take several, because once you start looking into this, there's venue, there is music, there is setting up, there's taking down,
Yeah.
there are gifts, raffles. So,
So
And
if
refreshments.
members are interested, if you could please talk to Dr. Torigny. I'm going to assume you'll be the chair of this ad hoc?
yes, I'll be glad to.
Okay, great. Anything else, sir?
No.
No. All righty, item G, financial planning, Mr. Olson.
We have not met yet, but we will be meeting soon, so we will get an email sent out from Julie and having a meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Item 6A, financial statements, they're in the packet. Any discussion on those items? Mr. Prasad?
The period that they're from is, it's like a 14-month period, is that right? Am I reading that right?
Are you looking at the budget report?
Yes.
When I did the June statement, I just ran it for the whole year.
So
So
we're,
the final budget report.
so we're 2.3 million under, which will go to E&D?
No.
Tammy, just remember to turn your mic on.
Oh,
I'm thinking that might pick me up.
yeah.
First, you have to look at the balance is 2.3, but then we still have 2.2 encumbered at year end. So that would be like your summer pays for the teachers. The July and August payments make up most of that.
So that's like accruals?
But I think to your question, the statement of accounts was 7/1 through 8/31, right? So it was just that was a whole 23 through, so it's more than 12 months, right?
Yes, it's the whole financial period, because to get July 1st through
Yep.
June 30th, but to the way the system works, to get what's actually encumbered at the time, I have to run it to the date of the time frame I'm running it through. If that makes sense. So I wanted you to see all the way through June, even things I had made adjustments through in July and August. So to get those true figures, I ran it through that time frame. You're welcome.
All right. Item 6B, post-secondary Perkins grant. Would someone like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the district committee accept the post-secondary Perkins grant in the amount of $7,004.00.
Do we have a second for that? Mrs. Marshall seconds. Discussion? Seeing none. Julie, could you please call that? Motion carries. Item 6C, secondary Perkins grant.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the district committee accept the secondary Perkins grant in the amount of $312,607.00.
Was that Mrs. Jones? All right. So, Mr. Broussard moves, Mrs. Jones seconds, discussion? Mr. Campbell?
So in terms of these Perkins grant money, and you accepting them, we take it these are all going to the vocational programs predominantly?
Correct.
All of it.
The post-secondary one that we already voted, they just voted on, that's all LPN. That's $7,000. It's not huge, but it helps them get some technology and stuff. But then the rest goes to the Chapter 34 programs.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Julie, could you please call that vote as well? Motion carries. Item 6D, Career and Technical Education Partnership Grant. Mr. Prasad.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the district committee accept the Career and Technical Education Partnership Grant in the amount of $838,980.00.
Do we have a second for that? Second. Ms. Jones seconds. Discussion? Seeing none, Julie, could you call that as well? Motion carries. Communications, item 7A, teachers' information or proposals, we have none. 7B, school committee chairman's report. John's not here, so I guess I get to do that. First, I'd like to welcome Ms. Jones to the committee. She's replacing Mr. Capone, representing Ashby, and our representative from Royalston is departed, so we'll be looking to get that position filled.
Which we might already have, but we're waiting for a confirmation.
That would be wonderful. I do want to...
Pardon me?
Mary.
It's Mary, but she calls herself Charlotte now. So.
I do want to thank the administration and Donnie for getting everything squared away in the room here. Looks great. Hopefully the video recording's working well tonight. We'll see. And then for those of you who have reached out to me, I appreciate your condolences. So, school committee information or proposals. Mr. Campbell, you have a proposed motion you'd like to make. Could you please do so? And
I don't know, in reference to, when I inquired about the budgets of the school committee, I understand we're allocated maybe $52,000 a year. And one of the questions I asked was, what if the school committee does not use the full amount? What happens to the leftover of the amount? I understand it gets carried over and put into a general fund, my understanding? Tammy?
Yes, well,
Okay.
indeed.
So, I don't know if I missed a meeting here and there about the vote. I don't remember or occurring about the vote. First of all, this is a beautiful setup. Reminds me of the old days when I first became a school committee member back in 2004. It's a little rustic, but it was a nice little room. And I remember Strat yelling at somebody to put the cassette player on and flip it so we could record that meeting, all right? So we had some type of recording. So I know this is one going back and forth, subcommittee ad hoc, and investigating different type of cameras and things like that. And I mean, this is great. I like it the way it's set up, and it's nice. A little chilly in here, but it's okay. I like it. So the thing that sort of concerns me is why are we using our school committee budget line item to purchase and get this? Small enough as it is. My understanding, guesstimating, this is maybe $55,000 or $60,000 to set up. Am I in the ballpark?
Probably in that.
More?
No, well, I mean, Tammy, do you want to just go right to the budget, or?
So I'm just, give me an overview, what did we spend here to get this, you know?
Well, Bob, in
Just
total,
a-
or what did the school committee
No,
spend?
I'm just saying, what did just the camera and, you know, is that part of the cost of the chairs and the tables as well? For this?
We did not. We did not do the
Oh,
chairs
okay,
and
so
tables.
so what we're talking about, the recording is that just the camera and the setups, right?
Yes.
So what's the just overall budget? I don't need to, you know.
Yes, so
itemize, break it
the
down.
recording equipment was $24,500. So that was the total that was charged against the school committee budget for this year.
So why do we have a zero budget? We have a $53,000. We spent that much already? What's the budget for our school committee?
Sure. I anticipate this might be a question. Could I ask Donnie and Julie to?
I guess I should point out, we were supposed to make a motion, that we're discussing without the motion,
Oh,
but
I'm sorry. Can we double back?
Do you have this page? It has the motion on it, go ahead.
Oh, that's right here on there, right? So I'm going to make a motion here. Proposed motion is to return the line item to the school committee fund and find more appropriate source of funding for the recording of the school committee meetings. That's all I'm asking.
is there a second for that? Mr. Malik, are you seconding it?
No.
No, okay. Do we have a second for Bob's motion? Dr. Torigno seconds, discussion.
Somewhat a point of information, it's a little nebulous here, I don't have my right glasses on, but it says return the line item. What line?
So my understanding is the money was used up from the school committee's line item to purchase the recording equipment. So we have no money left in our budget, you know.
I get it, should we let Tammy go through that, so?
Yeah, so I'm just,
Thanks, I just didn't, I didn't know just the word line item, or which one it meant. Thank you.
Sure. So again, we did this based upon what we thought was the will of the committee was to take it out, the recording equipment, out of the school committee line item. So school committee FY25 budget, $55,000 for FY25, which is a 3% increase over FY24, $53,500. So first we said, what are the musts that come out of the school committee line item every year? So you have your board docs of $9,000, MASC dues, you can see $8,330, the NEASC dues, $5,230, the Skills USA allotment of $2,500, the stipend for the secretary to take the minutes at the meeting, the budget public hearing notice that we need to put in the paper is $700. The coffee, water, cookies of $500 is what was left after cuts, but that's what you're going to speak about. Program advisory food for the June meeting only, which is the school committee joint meeting with program advisory, is $1,480. The pre-graduation gathering for the school committee and staff is $500. And the start of the school committee year, what we had tonight, is approximately $500. So approximately FY25 expenditures out of those items is $30,740. If we add the one-time spending for the recording equipment, we come up with the $55,240, which is just $240 over the $55,000 potential budget. The cuts that I think Mr. Campbell is referring to that are reflected in the top was the additional food, like food costs, which would be above and beyond what we had in there for the $500. The MASC conference, you can see, is $2,060, and a cut to skills of $500 to kind of get it to in balance to where it was. The other costs are just for information for the school committee. The conference room tables were $9,400 and the conference room chairs were $2,900. we took that out of the furnishings account, because that will be used. You know, we can bring this from back to the classroom. So that's kind of your outline.
Mr. Hurley.
I guess my first question is, did the school committee vote to take the funds from our account to pay for the recording? And if so, when did that vote occur?
So, Mr. Olson, that was a recommendation from the Financial Planning Subcommittee as part of our, this year's budget, correct?
Yeah, that was where we had budgeted that number in, right?
Yeah.
And that total, we don't line item budgeted to this
Yeah.
detail, right? But that's great to see, how it got rolled up, but that total was, okay, that's in that number.
Yeah.
We didn't expand it for the,
Right.
the reporting.
I'm sorry. Could you
We
explain
didn't
that?
have a budget, we didn't have. a
We didn't
budget.
vote, or we did vote? As a committee?
Mrs. Weeks?
Sensitive.
I believe the meeting that we voted, whether or not we were going to buy the recording equipment, it was discussed then, where the money was coming from, and we had said that, I believe we all agreed that it would not come out of anything from the students. That's what I remember from that meeting.
You're saying that we agreed it would not come out of education?
Yes.
Did we vote to have it come from the school committee's budget?
We didn't do a separate vote, no, but
Okay. And when we had our ad hoc committee meetings, was it agreed upon by the ad hoc committee that the recording equipment will be used for more than just the school committee?
that ad hoc, again, being on that committee, I believe that at the time, we were only looking for whether or not, how much this recording equipment would cost, and then whether or not the school committee as a whole wanted to buy it. If the school could use it for other things, that was just like an added bonus. That was not part of that ad hoc committee.
I'll ask the question again. Did the ad hoc committee discuss that the recording equipment would be used by such things as Skills USA and for conferences to be held in school?
Again, I'm going to say I do not believe that that's what the ad hoc committee was for. It was strictly to say whether or not.
I'm not asking what the purpose of the committee was. I'm asking if we discussed it.
Okay.
Let's stay focused, all right? I know, Mr. Maliki, you
I have a
had your
second
hand up.
question.
Yeah,
Can
I'm
we
gonna
get a
go to-
copy of this page as school committee members?
Of course you can. Mr. Malik, I know you had your hand up after Mr. Hurley, so before I point to anybody else, I want to go to you.
So I see everything down at 55, Tammy.
I'll come to you.
And
Diane.
then it says, by the way, to answer your question, it's always just in general good whenever we vote here for one thing or another, assuming that we do vote, to ask what's the cost
Yeah,
and where's that coming from?
yeah,
That's always good practice.
agreed.
We usually get the cost, but we don't always ask the question, where's it coming from? But back to this, Timmy, when it says cuts, this means that now, since we've spent our $55,000, we have to now have no money to spend for food, the November conference, and the skills extra money, right? Is that what that means by cuts?
It's potential cuts.
Yeah.
Because we haven't truly expended all of the funds that are up top yet.
Right.
Those
Okay.
are just anticipated expenditures.
Right. So in other words,
This committee can put the money back wherever you choose,
Right.
however you choose, absolutely.
yeah.
It's not spending.
At any point, we can put any money where we want.
Yes.
That's our kind of
After
purview
Diane.
to be able to do that. So this money is now potentially not where some of us would like it to be and some of us wouldn't like it to be, but we can move stuff around to adjust to accommodate that if that's the will of the committee.
100%.
Okay? Just want to make sure that everybody, especially people who haven't been here for a little bit, may know that. Thank you.
Mrs. Swenson?
That's not working. When the committee was talking about originally formed, it was for the transparency of having the school committee meetings recorded. when the gentleman came in, who was the chosen vendor, came in to talk about, he indicated that, they're trying to do handling of schools and academics, et cetera, so there was a lot of advantageous in having him as a vendor, and they were the preferred one for, as far as the subcommittee was concerned, and that would be to use them because of working with the school on installation and things like that. Also, we were certainly getting the better price from him. At the time that it was going to be then turned over to the administration, I believe it was around $35,000, $36,000 that we were talking. It was a ballpark because you had to go back and reevaluate and you changed the room, et cetera. So a new quote was going to be received, but we didn't need to have the subcommittee do it because the administration obviously would be doing the installation. During our conversation with that gentleman, he indicated, well, yeah, because we could use this, and if it's in the conference room or whatever, it certainly can be used for school events. That was not the original intent. The original intent was only to record these meetings. So we actually ended up with the advantageous effect of having things that could be done now that it's already set up in these rooms, to be able to do anything that the school would do, and that would benefit the students. And the intent was never to take any money away from the student funds or the student everyday activities. There is nothing that this conference and this setup does for skills. That is strictly for me for attending national, and it's cut, so I pay the rest.
Right. So the reality is if the school committee didn't want to record, we wouldn't have bought this equipment. Mr. Campbell.
So, we could go around and just keep beating this dead horse, so to speak, but the key thing here is, we have over $30 million budget in this school, and the grants are pouring in all over the place. In the past, we've gotten lots of money from the COVID, right? During the pandemic time. A couple of years ago, some of the money set aside, but we want to use it up. Past superintendent suggested, it brought up to our situation, that nobody coped with the COVID and everything else. I don't know how the school did it, from Monty Tech, right to we have 113 point something faculty here. 10 or 11 administrators, custodians, cafeteria workers, everybody got $1,000 cash. Right? Rightfully so. So, all I'm looking for is an opportunity for the school committee to have a small budget to do this operation. This setup here, okay, it's about $24,500, which is really nothing in many respects. And Peggy said we could make those up at the end of the year. The fundings could be transferred to cover it. We do that till the end of the year. I know that. So basically, all I'm asking is, on my motion, is to return that $24,500 back to our fund and find other means to get the money, and it's out there. I mean, what big crunch are we taking away from educational fund, please?
So
We have a lot of money coming into the school, so that's all I'm asking. I don't want to, we don't need to go and just say, this is for the school committee only, this is for this. I mean, we've already went through that, please. All I'm asking, return that $4,500, and remaining of the school year, let's use the budget up and go from there. Because I'm sure every year we have not used all the full amount of the money, and they go back into the general funds. Thank you.
Mr. Hurley?
Yes, I have a question. Ms. Swenson had brought up that we did have a vendor come in and made a proposal that the subcommittee agreed with. And when the subcommittee brought its proposal to the school committee voted to suggest that we use the vendor AVI. Is that the vendor that we're using to buy this equipment?
No, because
No.
I believe, again, to my recollection, eventually, the AVI was the original recommendation, but then there became basically a situation where the administration was asked to work with Donnie to find other proposals, other folks who could do different things in terms of the cost and everything else, because there seemed to be some concerns with ABI. One, the quote that they had given you had run out. It was no longer, so they would have had to do another quote and everything else. Because of the
Were they
time.
asked to provide one?
Say it again?
Were they asked to provide one at that time?
Again, Mr. Shirley, my recollection is that you asked us to look and explore with other folks, and we did, and we shared that information. So.
Mr. Montachusett?
Yeah. Bobby, maybe you would accept this recommendation to remove your motion and to replace it with, why don't we give Tammy a month to find us $5,000 to make our budget back to what it was?
I mean, I don't see the purpose.
That seems to solve your problem.
Well,
Because
Mr. Prasad, go
what
ahead.
seems to be grinding on everybody is that somehow we paid for this equipment. I don't mind paying for the
We should have.
equipment, because somebody's paying for the equipment. And it seems like to make it all back to normal, like we're used to, we need about $4,000 to $5,000. If Tammy could come up with some way to make that get back into this line item, seems like everybody would be satisfied.
No.
Mr. Prasad, then I'll come to you.
Can I ask Tammy some
Yeah.
questions? So fiscal '24, which you presented tonight in the financial statement, shows that the GL budget is $53,976 for chart account 1110, which is the school committee.
Yeah.
That's broken down by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different accounts. The largest is school committee miscellaneous expense, which totaled $29,348 last year. What is the breakdown on, do you know what that encompasses?
Yes, so some expenses that we normally charge off to the school committee to make the recording work in the school committee budget. We took it out of the school committee budget and I cut a little of the superintendent and the principal's budget. So the holiday gathering, the holiday house that feeds the staff at the holiday time, there's a meal for staff. That usually we take out of school committee miscellaneous because it's the thank you from the school committee to the staff. I asked Superintendent Brown if we could cut his budget because he doesn't often spend it all. If we could cut his budget to pick up that expense, as well as the first day of school, when we welcome teachers back, we don't charge them for lunch. We charge them for lunch every other day, professional development and otherwise. The first day back, we don't charge them for the lunch they receive, so I had to take that out of the principal's budget.
That usually comes out of our budget. So in fiscal '24, the $53,976 that we spent didn't include any of this equipment.
Correct.
It's all gonna happen in this fiscal year. And we still spent all $54,000.
Mr. Olson?
I had to work. Swear.
Wait, it's back on. So I think to answer your question, I didn't see specifically the vote when we had put it back to the administration. I do recall there was a discussion about some grants or some other offsetting funding that we were unaware of too, that was hoped to come in. We didn't, in the '24 budget, when we put it to the subcommittee and the full committee, increase the school committee expense to incorporate the materials, right? I think the administration came forth with a suggestion. This wasn't approved by this committee yet, but I appreciate the way this came forward. I think the group here really needs to be aware that, you know, as we do every year through our budget, this is what we hope to spend, how we anticipate. We still have the choice to spend over the budget, right? We will find a way for a couple $1,000s to offset it. I think it's great that the group brought forth this. If the group here, and I was going to bring up tonight, the intention for sure was not, if the group really needs the food or the meals or the $1,500, it's not that the committee shouldn't be paying for that. We don't need donations. Appreciate them from somebody for it. That's great, you know, if somebody wants to, but that was never, I'm sure, the intent of anybody to try to think that we couldn't, you know, pay for a sandwich or a snack for somebody who came from work who didn't get a chance to eat so they could be at the meeting, right? So don't think that this was some like grand, hey, we're gonna go shave every penny. It was here's our budget, we didn't increase it, it came in way under what, if we had been at the 50,000, it sure wouldn't even have been enough in this budget. We would have had to have moved something at some point later in the year. We as a committee can still vote. If we want to go to the MASC conference and people want to go, then great, we're going to spend the money for the MASC conference, right? I don't know that we have to go set aside this additional money now. It'd be better off actually to run over the budget and be aware of it at every meeting and every decision we make to say, hey, by the way, we just now have gone over our budget by $1,000 for this decision. Hey, Tammy, don't forget when we true up, we're going to have to offset that somewhere else. And we do that every account on every one. That's why the last meeting of the year, we have those true ups that come through and all the transfers between accounts. But it doesn't also hurt our account to say that, hey, this is an expense the school committee wanted specifically for this room. I think it belongs in this bucket. I wouldn't want to put it somewhere else. And we already set the budget. I don't think there's a benefit to changing the dollar threshold. We just need to acknowledge as a group, we're going to be over that budget this year because we bought the equipment. And we need to make smart decisions with what else we purchased this year as a committee in light of that.
Yeah. And so I'd like to say a few things. For one, Tammy, this is a one-time event. So next year, our numbers will go back to what they were, right?
Yes.
I know personally, I'm looking at a lot of, that's discretionary spending, frankly. And I don't support spending that money this year, but that's my own personal opinion. Obviously, everyone here is entitled to their own. So, if we vote on moving money around, I'm going to vote no. But I agree with Mr. Olson. There's nothing to prevent us from overspending. We can go over a line item. And yeah, the numbers may work out okay at the end of the year. I don't think it's for Tammy and the administration, though, to tell us where to take the money from. If we want to take money, we have a financial planning subcommittee. We can go do that work. So, anyways, any other discussion? Mr. Campbell.
So are we going to be taking action on this? My request is to return that $24,500 to the budget, our line item, for the rest of the year. That's all I'm asking.
So,
And we can find the money somewhere else down the road.
Mrs. Jones.
Do you have a suggestion where you think that money should come from?
Well, that's up to Tammy to maybe look to see where it might be, because now remember, when you could go to a different accounts and, balance the budget toward the end of the year. There's money there. There's some discretionary funds or, there's.
So if the money is there, then wouldn't it make sense to just leave it the way that it is? And then if there's extra money at the end of the year, then
Put it
the
back.
end result is
Yeah, it washes
extra
it
money.
out, yeah. I'm just saying that, when you want to do something for the school committee or something, they say, well, there's no money, you can't have it. What do you mean there's no money? Basically, that's, So I just want to.
Mr. Hurley?
I believe what Mr. Olson is saying, but why wasn't that the way it was presented to us? We got a memo saying no more meals.
We
And I know people
literally,
asked to go to the conference and they said, no, you can't.
we literally discussed this in the night we voted.
No,
We
let's-
said we
let's
were
vote on
removing
this.
MASC and
The night we
meals
voted for what?
for the video conference solution. We actually discussed it in that meeting. Everyone, whoever attended, heard it.
And we were told that night, no more sandwiches, no
Yeah,
more
yeah.
going to the
Yeah,
MASC.
but I mean, hey, if people here think sandwiches are
I
more
thought we couldn't
important,
find that
No,
vote.
no.
Did you find that vote, Mr. Olson?
it was the vote for the recording, and we discussed that we were going to fund it in that vote. Tamara?
Not from the school committee.
So my
Yes, we
question
did.
is there something that we really want to do with the money?
Yeah,
It seems
yeah.
like people are saying they want the money for specifically, do we want to go to MASC? Is that the purpose of moving the money back? Or
Yeah.
she already said that she would provide food, so that was the solution to that issue. So I'm just curious what the point is, so we can actually solve it and move on to whatever.
The point basically is, I'm just saying, put the line item money back so we could just,
Well, I think this Tamara
just
had a
whatever
valid
purposes
question.
need.
What do
It
you want to
doesn't
spend it
necessarily,
on? All right? Right, Tamara? You want to know, what do you want to spend it on?
Well, because then you can figure out what we need it for, right? And
Yeah.
then allocate for that specific purpose.
Yeah.
Just
John?
Yeah, I think Eric is saying, put the money back, but put it back at the end of the year. Is that right, Eric? If we're out of line at the end of the year, we'll take care of it like we always do. And why worry about it now?
I think,
Other than the fact that we don't get sandwiches, just give us sandwiches.
and I think to the question
That's
here is,
simple.
if it is,
Anybody here not want
if it
sandwiches?
is a sandwich question, let's just answer sandwiches, or if it's MASC, answer MASC.
Yeah.
But that's easy enough to vote on, it's very easy to decide if that's the thing we want to go save on or not, we can make that decision. We can find the money, right? We can find the money, I hate to say there's that much, but like, that little we can go find somewhere else and make sure we save it on something else here, because we do a difference for the Holiday House, because we need food here, so we won't buy the same for Holiday House, or a different one, right? We can adjust during the year. But I don't think putting the entire budget back for, just spend makes no sense compared to, we paid something different, and we decided as a group that that wasn't how we wanted to go fund it, right?
Exactly.
If that's how that meeting went, I'm still excited.
So we have a motion on the table, which is to return the $24,500. We can, if there's no other
By
discussion.
the end
we
of the
can-
fiscal year.
Hmm?
By the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
Just change.
And we can vote on that, or, Mr. Campbell, if you want to revise your motion to,
No, my motion's Dan.
all right.
I'd like that
So-
money returned to the line item and on other sources to just pay for this. There's money out there, I know.
So if you'd like to vote for that, and we'd send it back to the Financial Planning Committee to find that money, because it's not the administration's job to set budget, it's ours. All right, so, all right. Well, if there's no other discussion, we'll call the vote. I can't read that, Julie. What is it?
4 ayes, 11 nays.
Motion fails. School committee comments.
If I can, just one more closing thing. Eric's advice is good, because every time we go over some line item in some particular area, whether it's this or something else, we don't rush and put stuff back in. We in general, we take, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tammy, we take care of it at the very end of the year. We go, hey, this is way down, there's money over here, let's move it in. We do it all in one. We'd be spending hours and hours and hours, doing these little Band-Aid things. So I think Eric's advice was sound in my opinion.
All right. School committee comments, I'll start with Mrs. Swenson.
Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully it's a good school year for all of us. Thank you.
Mr. Jones? Mrs. Smith? Nothing.
There's, as always, we're on Earth, so it's not perfect, but as always, there's just so many great things happening here. So I just want everybody who's involved, whether it's committee, administration, somebody who's picking up the papers in the hall, making that hall look shiny, look like a seabed going down to the tea room. Just thanks for all the great things that happen here. It's a great school.
Thank you, John. Mr. Farber?
Just one thing, that might be a question. Is this, the recording, will that be posted on?
I think it's the school's YouTube channel, Donnie?
Yeah. It's our first time through, give us the time to make sure we can get it posted correctly and everything. Oh, in fact, I screwed up, so I just need to put my microphone on.
Gets me sleeping.
Another question, I guess, I see the two cameras here. Is there a pickup of like the stuff that gets presented, like.
Does it pick up what's shown on the screen, Donnie?
It's not picking up that screen.
No.
Oh, yeah, so that's one thing that yes, I'm on. We talked about, because we realized we don't have a camera facing this way. We're hoping to find a way to kind of splice in stuff's on the screen.
Yeah, maybe even just
yeah.
electronically, not with a camera, but.
Yeah, Bill Gonzalez has some really good skills with the videos and everything else, so that's what I'm saying, if you could bear with us as we try to put the video together.
This is a great first
Yep.
step, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we delivered it on time, too, so that's really good news. Mrs. Estes? Mr. Olson?
A couple things. First, please, we got to close the door on the fan on that cabinet,
Yeah.
because it echoes right around the room. It's really loud over here, Donnie. Those fans. But besides that, love the other aesthetics. The new logo would be great when we get the real logo back up, or the.
It will be with the right colors, let's say.
But it's going to be that style, like this funky thing, this new thing. Okay. Okay, it's fine. I'm okay with funky. I don't know. We have so many logos around here. There's so many. They just keep popping up all the time. We have new ones everywhere. I feel like we keep trying to find new ones to see if any of them stick. And
Call marketing.
all right. Also, a very thank you to whoever picked the tables out that doesn't have the metal rail under here to smash our knees on. I don't know who that was, but please tell
Mr.
Mike.
Gormley.
Tell Mike, thank you, success on that, because if anybody didn't know, the old tables had a nice metal thing to keep them straight and supported, and they put the tables in backwards once in a while, and you'd crash in a year or two. Welcome to Mrs. Jones. Thank you for joining the committee. Appreciate that. Bummer on Royalston. And maybe to Tom or the full committee and Mr. Columbus or not, I guess in the schedule for this year, possibly, it may be interesting for me to see, and if the rest of the committee was interested, to try to understand in the school plan. I know there's been a lot of conversation on cell phone use. We've had different conversations on cell phone policies. I don't know if that's something that's coming back up again here for our students around usage, non-usage, in classroom, out of classroom. But I also think that ties to, let's call it large language learning models, AI, whatever buzzwords you want to put around it, but how our school is looking to embrace the education and usage of them, not just the prevention of their usage at the same time, right? And I think that's a really important part of what we as a leading edge, I hope, vocational technical school are heavily working with our staff on now around how we do that implement. And I'd like to hear about it actually at this committee level of how the group thinks about it, how our staff think about it, and how that shapes, I even view our district improvement plan and our delivery of course and content and materials. I think we as schools typically lag way behind on that. And I know it's kind of a big problem some places around the education around it, and our students will need to be well-knowledged on this technology when they graduate to be successful in the workplace. That's clear, right? I don't know, everybody knows exactly how that will work. So I think it's important for us as a committee and a district that's something that we're making sure we're putting pretty high priority in. And I don't mean knee-jerk reaction, we have to go do something, but if we don't start planning and thinking about it now, similar to us, we were one of the first schools around in the area doing the full Chromebooks and having that kind of in place and being a little technology forward. I'd like to see us as Montech do the same. If the interest is there of our faculty and staff to be there, I think that would be interesting to hear how the staff view that, what we think in the administration, but also, just to get that update to kind of the school committee. But technology use at all, I think is really needs a.
Sure.
Not sure it fits in the superintendent goals with the MVP program and making sure that goes off,
Yeah.
but I'd like to see that as something maybe we start thinking of, and I'm sure it ties to NEASC and some of the approvals and district improvement.
And I'll just give two very quick comments. One, in terms of just cell phones in general, as you know, there are, across Massachusetts, there are several districts, Gardner being one of them, that is really starting to institute those phone bags that kids have to put in. I'm gonna be watching that very closely and see how that goes in those communities. But in terms of AI, we've offered during our professional development days several different workshops that self-selected teachers participated in to talk about AI. One of the things I have, I don't have any concerns with AI, I think it's a tool that we need, I agree, that we need to use. What has me concerned and actually very surprised is DESI has not spoken anything to AI. You would think Massachusetts, of all places, would be making very specific statements about AI in education. And myself and a lot of superintendents are saying, why are we going to start putting out AI policies when all of a sudden the state, we get everybody going on it, and then the state comes out and says, oh, you can't do that because we're putting in a new policy. So I agree. I think we have to start having more of the specific discussions, but I don't want to jump into the fray too quickly and then find ourselves then having to retract everything we did because the state, which again, I'm dumbfounded that they have not started anything specific about it.
They're waiting for us to put something more.
Ah, yes, probably.
That's a good, that's always a good idea.
Yes.
Because then you get more of what you want.
Yeah.
I continue to be impressed with our students, our staff, our faculty, everybody here at Montachusett. Recently, I learned of a program offered by the Associated General Contractors of Massachusetts called the Building Advancement Externship, available for instructors, and lo and behold, Trish Woodliff.
Yes, who's our
Attended.
student education.
Attended for us at Montachusett class in 2023 in this great program that's free, offered by this organization to help advance construction education towards jobs in the construction trades throughout Massachusetts, which I think is great that we participated in, and I'm not shocked to see that we're there.
Yes.
Thank you
No problem.
for doing it.
And going back last meeting, Dr. Trini, you talked about trying to have someone from continuing ed come in to do a presentation because of the Kenya project and everything else. Trish is getting the year up and started. They're opening up next week. So I'm going to have her come to either the October or November meeting to do that presentation. So maybe she'll be able to talk a little bit about that as well. So, no problem.
Mrs. Reed?